Greetings. It's David Wilkins again from Minnesota, ASALH, and it's good to be with you again, particularly during these particularly turbulent times. I think I said in a previous video that this year 2020 was a unusual one to be studying US government, and it's proven to be even more unusual than any of us could have imagined. I know that you were all been watching with great interest the attack on our Capitol this past Wednesday, and I'm certain it is as disturbing to all of you as it is to me. But keep watching. It's important. This is history being made, and you are a part of it. I wanted to take just a short bit to comment on how the events of Wednesday relate to what you're studying, indeed, what we've studied in these short video series together, particularly the video we did on the election of 1876 and the Compromise of 1877. Hopefully you remember that. I mention it because if you followed the reporting, of course, you know that in addition to all of the disturbances, the riot that was taking place, the Republicans were attempting to pose objections to the certification of the Electoral College outcome for Joe Biden. In the process, Senator Ted Cruz made reference specifically to that 1876 election and to the election commission that grew out of the dispute between the Tilden Democrats and the Rutherford B. Hayes Republicans. Cruz proposed on Wednesday that we form a similar commission. And I want to remind you, the commission that was formed in 1877 to try and resolve that dispute grew out of a contested election where you had three states claiming dueling set of electors. And so Florida, Louisiana, and South Carolina presented both Republican and Democrat electoral outcomes to the Electoral Commission. Nothing like that has happened in this election. If you followed closely, you know certainly there are claims of fraud, but there have been 46 lawsuits brought and resolved in favor of there being no fraud in this election. Republican election officials at the highest levels and at the state levels have all said this was the safest, the cleanest election we've ever had. Nevertheless, you have Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and the Republicans claiming that the electoral outcome should be challenged. And Cruz again has referenced creating a commission. It's farcical when you consider or you try to compare the two sets of circumstances, but that hasn't kept Cruz from making the argument on the floor of the Senate that he made. So keep in mind that, again, the circumstances between 1876 and 2020 could not be more different, and there would be no work for a so-called 1877 commission to do, because indeed there has been no fraud, no evidence of fraud, but that hasn't kept the objectors from raising these objections. So let me show a quick video, and I'll come back with a quick close, but the video touches on, again, many of the issues that we've discussed, certainly coming out of the 1876 election, with special regard to the violence that has accompanied our politics from the very beginning. What Cruz failed to highlight, but what Senator Dick Durbin brought to the Senate in response to Cruz, was that the outcome of that 1876 election was a torrent of anti-Black, white supremacist violence against Black voters, particularly in the South. And that would last for a generation until the passage of the Civil Rights Acts in the 20th century. So let's take a look at this video. I'll come back with a quick close, and we'll continue this conversation as we go forward. Let me share my screen. Stop pretending this is not who we are.
Let me be very clear. The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America. Do not represent who we are.
Are you sure about that, Joe? An armed standoff? White male entitlement? Conspiracy theories? Sounds pretty American to me. Just look at this guy.
This is not who we are as a nation.
This is not who we are as a country.
It's not who we are. We're better than this.
We may be shocked by pictures of a mob invading the Capitol, but check out the paintings hanging behind them in the rotunda. We shouldn't be surprised, because we've always been like this. America is a nation built on stolen land, by stolen people. And if Wednesday's rampage feels historic, it's because violence is in our national DNA. A mob raised a whole block in Philadelphia because they didn't like, you guessed it, the election results. And after Lincoln was elected, the South launched a civil war rather than accept peaceful transfer of power. Those Americans dreamed this flag would fly in the halls of the Capitol, but it never did, until now.
They don't get to steal it from us. They don't get to tell us we didn't see what we saw.
Taking up arms when you lose an election? That's American tradition.
I look to history, to the precedent of the 1876 election, the Hayes-Tilden election where...
Glad you remember that one, Ted. That was when Black Americans were subjected to a century of Jim Crow terror, a trade-off for electoral peace. An hour after your speech on Wednesday, while you cowered inside, they hung a noose outside the Capitol. And Black people cleaning up the mess? That's another all-American tradition. This is where centuries of white entitlement leads.
Oh, there we go.
Storm the Capitol and meet hardly any resistance. A cop is not a threat. He's a photo opportunity. And instead of a jail cell, you toast your criminality in a hotel lobby.
We are watching an attempt at a bloodless coup in the United States.
Closest thing that I can think of that this reminds me of is the time I spent in Iraq in 2007 and 2008.
These aren't foreign insurgents. They are us. They shop at Walmart. They watch the Super Bowl. And they're not going anywhere.
We were normal, good, law-abiding citizens, and you guys did this to us. We want our country back.
And for the purest expression of the American way, just look at the man responsible for Wednesday's violence. A man who leads by Twitter, who knows that if you have enough money, they'll let you do anything. He told us who he was, and we picked him, because this is exactly who we are.
And after this, we're gonna walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're gonna walk down.
America, land of the snake oil salesman.
Let me be very clear. The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America.
No, Joe. This was a perfect distillation of everything America is and has always been. Your platitudes spin a fantasy as absurd as QAnon, that repeating, this is not who we are, will somehow make it true.
Goodbye.
Of course, this isn't everything we are.
The 82-year-old hands that used to pick somebody else's cotton went to the polls and picked her youngest son to be a United States Senator.
Just hours before the violence began, Georgia elected its first Black senator. But we can only realize our strength if we stop whitewashing our sins. We are a nation forged in racist violence, a society that values wealth over wisdom, a country where personal ambitions mean more than morality, masked with false piety, where citizens wreak havoc on the very institutions that enable them. And get the t-shirt too.
This is the United States of America.
Joe Biden's right. This is the United States of America, and we're studying its government, its history, and that has to include the type of violence we saw on Wednesday and the type of violence that was perhaps in Ted Cruz's mind as he referenced that 1876 election and the almost century of violence against Black voting rights that followed that commission. So let me just conclude. We will come back with another short video highlighting the Ossoff and Warnock win in Georgia. That is also America, and that is very, very important. But if we're going to tell this story, we want to tell the entire story. So thank you again for listening, and please stay tuned for our next video.